Daniel Silva, I got Daniel Silva's middle book for my birthday because I started late, so I'm not up to his latest book now. But he is, of course, the award-winning #1 New York Times bestselling author of a million thrillers, including The Unlikely Spy, The Mark of the Assassin, Marching Season, The Kill Artist, many more. He's been called his generation's finest writer of international intrigue and one of the greatest American spy novelists ever. His latest book is The Other Woman. It's out now, and it continues the story of Gabriel Allon, the legendary art restorer and assassin who serves as the chief of Israel's vaunted secret intelligence service. Very bright guy, really interesting interview. Listen in. Daniel Silva, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You know, I don't read a lot of series. After the first 2 episodes, I usually find that I've figured it out and I don't want to go on. I am very deep into the Gabriel Allon series, and one of us is going to have to die before I stop, either you or me. I think part of it is just my fascination with this character. Can you tell my audience exactly who Gabriel Allon is?
Well, he is an Israeli intelligence officer, assassin. He now serves as actually the head of Israeli intelligence. I never use the word Mossad in the series. I refer to it as the office. And once upon a time, he worked undercover. His cover job was that he was an art restorer. He was and is one of the world's finest art restorers. So he has 2 very different sides to his character. And the series has a very strong art component to it that's been there from the beginning. And I have now written, believe it or not, The Other Woman is the 18th in the series. I never imagined it would. Well, first, I mean, he was never supposed to appear in more than 1 book, so let's get that right out there. He was supposed to appear in 1 book and 1 book only, so obviously no one is more surprised by the longevity of this character than the person who created him.
You know, I want to talk about some of the themes that I think the character brings up, but let's talk about the new book, The Other Woman, first. What is he dealing with this time?
Well, he's dealing with the Russians, and you know, within those 18 books is a subset of novels of Gabriel Allon's conflict with the Russian intelligence services and a Russian leader who looks and acts a great deal like Vladimir Putin. And in this novel, he is searching for a Russian mole that the Russian intelligence has inserted somewhere into the upper reaches of Western intelligence. And that search actually takes him backward in time to the worst case of treason and treachery in the 20th century, and that's the case of Kim Philby, the British double agent.
You know, it's really interesting. I sometimes joke that, you know, because Gabriel Allon is going after the enemies of the Jews, which is just about everybody, I sometimes joke that he would kill an innocent Dutchman just to avenge Anne Frank, which is one of the things I really enjoy about him. But a lot of times he's taking on ISIS and he's taking on the Islamists. Why'd you go? I mean, obviously Russia's in the news right now a lot. Why did you go for Russia this time?
Oh, it was, I just felt that this year that Russia was going to be so timely and topical. I felt that the second year of the Trump administration, that it was going to be very important as the Mueller investigation started to near its conclusion, and frankly, as I thought that world events would unfold in such a way that Russia was going to be very important. And you know what? I turned out to be correct on that. In fact, the day I published my book, the day I published my book was the day that Putin and President Trump met in Helsinki. So my timing could not have been better.
Yeah, it's exquisite. Give me your take on Putin. You always I think you call him the president all the time. You never call him by name.
Well, no, I call him the Tsar actually, because I do think of him as a neo-Tsar. He's very imperial in the way he conducts himself, particularly inside Russia, the way he struts around the Kremlin in those gold-plated imperial rooms. He's very much casting himself as a neo-Tsar. And what I think about Putin is that he's a cold-blooded, stone-cold killer who leads a kleptomaniacal regime that is very dangerous, and he's made no secret of his ambition. He wants to restore the territorial integrity of the old Soviet Union. He wants to push NATO in the West away from Russia's borders. He wants Russia to be the dominant power in Eastern Europe, which is the Russians call the near abroad. He wants to compete with the United States for global power. And I must say, as I without getting bogged down in the politics and what happened and why, I thought that Vladimir Putin it looked like the most powerful man in the world in Helsinki last week.
He is incredibly good at maneuvering what is essentially a weak state into a position of strength. It's really it's
you know
impressive.
what? People say that all the time and about Russia, a weak state, and fair enough. The economy is about 1/10 the size of the United States. It's got demographic problems. It's got it's technology is lagging. But when you have cyber, cyber is a great equalizer. And Vladimir Putin uses his intelligence services very skillfully. And the Russians have developed a new type of warfare that they refer to as hybrid warfare. They're never going to take us on directly. They're going to use this kind of hybrid warfare that is a combination of information warfare and black propaganda and provocation and instigation and meddling, and they're going to do it slowly and skillfully. And I must say, if you look at the situation right now, there's no other way to say it. They have probably succeeded beyond their wildest imaginations. Our political system, as of this week, is a smoldering wreck. I never thought I would live to see the day where the New York Times on the front page wrote an article wondering whether the President of the United States was a traitor or a Russian asset. This is where we're at. And this was brought about by Russia, and they are absolutely trying to weaken our democracy, cripple us, make us ineffective, so that they can pursue their agenda unchallenged.
It is, and it's true. They're amazingly skillful. It really is. It is a wonder what they've done to us just over the last 2 years.
The other thing that happened this week that didn't get quite as much notice, but right after that meeting, President Trump gave an interview to Fox News in which he openly questioned the entire doctrine of Article 5 and collective defense of NATO, saying, why should we get into a war, words to that effect, over someplace like Montenegro.
Yeah.
Well, that's the entire doctrine. That's the entire concept. That's the entire reason why NATO exists. And I've been asking this question for some time. How would NATO respond to a true Article 5 crisis? And I think we got a pretty clear answer this week in Brussels and in that interview that the president gave to Fox News that I'm not, we might not rush to the defense of a power that came under Russian assault.
Yeah, it is always this terrible balance between defending the world and not going into a kind of World War I domino situation at the same time.
Correct.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I have to
Absolutely.
ask you. I have to ask you about some of the things the deeper themes that really appeal to me in these books. And I know that themes are sometimes something a writer does intentionally, and sometimes they just kind of grow out of him naturally. But by making Alon both an Israeli assassin, essentially, and making him an art restorer who is constantly working on beautiful Christian masterpieces, you put him in a position that I think many Jews are actually in emotionally, which is that he is in love with this wonderful culture of Christendom that has created all the science and wealth and freedom that we have. And yet he is aware that the central other of that civilization is the Jew, and he is constantly fighting the very people who have produced this culture. Did you mean that to be a theme, or is that just something that comes out of your own observation?
You know, it just came in naturally. He's not fighting, and just be careful. He's not fighting Western Christendom. He is by no means. And quite by accident, he formed a very powerful and important bond with the Vatican, and that is, as I have explored through numerous books. And I guess that it's maybe wishful thinking and hope and aspiration on my part that the Roman Catholic Church and Judaism could find some sense of reconciliation to this long divide, and Gabriel Allende and his relationship with a character named Monsignor Luigi Donati and the Pope himself sort of represent that.
Yeah, that is. I was
but
just.
He does spend a lot of time. He does spend a lot of time in Catholic churches, restoring paintings and working on Christian imagery.
And in the same way that you're very honest about some of the things that Israel has done that have not always been as nice as we would like them to be, you're very honest about the church being both sometimes a friend to the Jews and oftentimes an enemy. It really just puts them in this really very realistic position. You know, the very fact that you have a hero who's an assassin sort of speaks to a kind of attitude of real politic. I mean, that you know that people like this are necessary. Is that fair to say?
Sure. And now that man is the head of the office, or Israel's Secret Intelligence Service. And if you look at a previous head, a man named Meir Dagan, his career started in almost exactly the way Gabriel's did. So there are very obvious similarities between Meir Dagan and Gabriel Allende. Meir Dagan could actually paint a little bit too. Gabriel's a much better painter than Meir. Israel exists in a very rough neighborhood. This is not bingo. This is life or death. And for those who question, whether the threat to Israel is real, look no further than what has taken place in Syria and what the Assad regime did to its own people in order to stay in power. Imagine what would happen if the enemy ever breached Israel's borders. Imagine the slaughter, the Holocaust. This is serious business. And Israel's intelligence services and security services are on guard 24/7. This is life or death when it comes to Israel, and that's what makes them so compelling to write about.
You know, you wouldn't think what you just said would be political, but it has become that way. Do you get pushback?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You wouldn't think that it would be political. But you know what? Everyone, as we like to say in our household, my wife is a journalist. She works for CNN. Outrage is the coin of the realm. Everyone is right now is outraged about everything, and that's the way you communicate online, and that's the way you communicate on cable television. You have to be outraged about things, and frankly, outrage is the coin of the realm when it comes to politics. Everyone is outraged at everyone else at the other side of the aisle all the time. And look, Israel is controversial, and I deal with it every day of my life. The writing about an Israeli character.
I bet you do. I mean, I was talking to Brad Thor, and he has none of his books have been made into movies, and I don't think your books. There's never been a movie of Gabriel Allende, has there?
No, I've sold it to MGM, and we're working on a television series, actually.
Oh, okay. I mean, do you think that this?
Well, wait, get back. What did Brad say about his movie ventures?
Well, he was speculating. You know, Brad is an open libertarian, and he can be very political, and he's been on Glenn Beck and all this, and he was just saying, it doesn't make you friends in Hollywood. And I've worked out in Hollywood, and the attitude toward Israel is very, very how can I say it? Ambiguous. Let's put it that way. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if that hampered your movie ventures.
You know what? I have lots of friends in Hollywood, and I just went through an auction a year ago where practically everyone in Hollywood wanted to buy Gabriel Lon and make either a movie or a television show about him. So I think that, yes, there are, and I have examples of it. I would never name names or be indiscreet, but there are many, many people in Hollywood who are made very, very uncomfortable by Israel and the subject matter, and that's just the way things are. And I don't really think about it at all. If we can close the deal and get the pieces in place for a great television series about Gabriel Lon, that's going to be wonderful. If we're unable to get it done, I'm not going to worry about it one bit.
Yep.
But I do have a development deal right now. It's in development. We're working on it, and I hope it's going to happen. Rest assured that I made sure that I have an incredible amount of control over what's going to be done, and I kept that control for a reason.
Well, I will keep a good thought. James M. Cain was once asked what he thought about what Hollywood had done to his books, and he said, they did nothing to my books. They're right over there on the shelf. So I think we still have the books no matter what happens. They're terrific. Daniel Silva, thank you very much for coming on. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you. My pleasure. What a wonderful interview.
Thanks very much. We'll talk again. All right. Really terrific author. And just his book, I just eat them. I just